Hi guys, and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Yvonne Princess Shabangu, and you are welcome to like, subscribe, share, and comment. And voila, you're part of the graceful, the beautiful, and the wonderful family. As you guys know, that Employment Wednesdays is on a season break. We're still trying to cook and cook and cook and cook. So, in place of Employment Wednesdays, every Wednesday we are going to be doing book reviews for the next 3 or 4 weeks until Employment Wednesday season 2 is back with a bang. Okay, so the first book we are reviewing is The Gift of Imperfection. The Gift of Imperfection by Brene Brown. Guys, if you do not know Brene Brown, please get yourself in order. She teaches on allowing yourself to be vulnerable. She teaches on worth. She teaches on using the things that are frowned upon, or like feelings of shame. Like, for instance, she's done a lot of research on shame. Every time people speak on shame, they are afraid to talk about shame because the word shame is associated with maybe taboo. But she goes into all of those uncomfortable places that make us not want to be vulnerable, places that make us not feel worthy. She tackles all of that. So I have read Braving the Wilderness. That's the first I read, and then I've watched most of her TED Talks. And then secondly, I read The Gift of Imperfection, which is a beautiful one. I got it from Exclusive Books, and it was $390. It's worth it. Like, every page was so good. Like, it's all about living a holistic life. It's all about living a life understanding that things will happen, things will fall apart, and you'll face troubles and all of that, but it doesn't mean your whole life is terrible. It doesn't mean you're less worthy. You're worthy when things are not going your way. You're worthy when things are painful. You're worthy every single day you take a breath. You are worthy. You're still worthy. This moment, maybe you're going through a heartbreak, maybe you are going through unforgiveness, maybe there's things that you're dealing with. You're still worthy. And never put yourself in a position where you feel like you're only going to be worthy when certain things happen. You remain worthy. You don't have to be top of the class. You don't have to be CEO, exec, or whatever. You don't have to be anything to be worthy. By virtue of existing, you are worthy. That's why you were created. So this book actually amplifies that, emphasizes that you are worthy in every area of your life, and that it also helps you take charge in living a wholehearted life and in living holistically and making sure that you live to the fullest. So I wrote some notes that I want to share with you guys, which is a couple of things that I've learned from the book. Right, when I was reading the book, one of the biggest things I learned is that I'm worthy every single moment of the journey. I'm worthy now, not when or if something happens. I'm worthy. And she also tackles the differences between fitting in and belonging, right? And then she talks about how fitting in, you have to almost alter yourself to become something you're not, or something that you're uncomfortable. But belonging is using yourself, like your God-given gift, whoever you are, just to be, just allowing yourself to exist without having to alter yourself. Belonging is saying, I am Yvonne and I am flawed, but here I am, and this is what I'm offering to the world, me, just as I am, right? And then also she talks about how love and belonging go together, so she elaborates it further to say, when you feel like you belong, right, you are likely to fall in love, right? You fall in love, whether it's with your job, whether it's in friendship, whether it's romantically, but when you feel like there's a sense of belonging, you actually fall in love. Then she says they go together. And then she elaborates again on the thin line between professing our love and practicing our love, right? And then she says that we ought to dedicate our lives to doing both. So you can't substitute professing your love and practicing love. A person can love you but not practice the love, which is why people we love, people we believe in, people we hold dearly to our hearts actually disappoint us, they hurt us. It doesn't mean the love has gone away, right? But it means they may be professing the love, but they're not practicing actions of love, so there is a line in between, because every time we think of love, we just say, oh, you love me, so if you do a certain thing, or if you betray me, you don't love me anymore. When she actually breaks it down, it shows that I can say I love you, but I can also act out of love, not in love. Act out of love. Act in a way that makes you feel like I don't love you anymore, or I don't care for you anymore, right? So, and then she talks about how we shouldn't substitute either or. We should always try by all means to profess our love, to actually act out our love, right? And then she also talks about how we shouldn't be afraid to feel the shame or talk about shame, because at one point or another in our lives, we all feel some sort of shame. Every single person who's existing has felt shame, whether in school, whether they felt like they failed, whether they got a stage fright while speaking for the first time, whether their heart was broken by somebody else, but we've all felt shame. And it's important that we find a place of comfort in our loved ones and in the people that we trust, to be able to share our shame, to say, you know what, this is where I fall short, or this is how I feel, or this is where I'm at and I feel shameful, or I feel like I feel weak, or I feel I've failed myself. And she says that helps you actually overcome shame, because shame is not the enemy, but how we handle moments of shame is what is the enemy. Because half the time when we experience feelings of shame, or when we go through episodes of shame, we often feel like we are not worthy. But I want to remind you that in the midst of that chaos, you are worthy. In the midst of one area of your life not working out, you are still worthy, worthy of love, worthy of living, worthy of being, right? And then she also talks about how half the time we're afraid to share our shame because it makes us feel small. But if you have a circle of people you love, people you trust, you will not feel like small. You will actually be liberating yourself by sharing that moment of shame or whatever that you'd be going through at that particular time, right? And then she says half the time we silence ourselves because of the fear of being seen or perceived as unworthy. So we are afraid to say, oh my God, I failed that test and I feel so bad, I feel sad, because we're afraid that people are going to think we're not worthy of sharing certain information. So half the time we don't want to be vulnerable or share our shame with other people because we're afraid that they may see us unworthy. And unworthiness has no measurement. It's not with requirements. It's not with when this happened, if this happens. You are just worthy by virtue of existing, and nothing can ever make you unworthy, right? And speaking from a Christian perspective, that's why Christ had to die for you, because you were worthy even when you were born into sin, right? And then she says also it's very important to understand that we exercise this thing. So she says it's important that we're authentic, and authenticity is something that we exercise. You don't wake up and you are born authentic. You exercise authenticity in how you show up every day of your life, in your friendships, in your relationships, for yourself. How you show up actually determines how far authentic you become, because often do we think people just become authentic. And when we understand that authenticity is cultivated and it's something that you exercise over time, then we understand that we ought to give ourselves and other people grace as well when they do things we don't like, or when we go through seasons of feeling shame on behalf of others or feeling shameful ourselves, right? And then she also touches on a very, I think it's a thing now. There's this phrase that says we are an overworked generation, when an overly worked generation and undercompensated. So we work a lot, but we're not even compensated for it. We are taught in order for us to be worthy or seen as important in society or to belong, we need to make executive, we need to look a certain way, we need to dress up a certain way, we need to have certain jobs. I'm here to break you free from that. All of those things are not a determining factor that you are worthy, right? And then she then talks about perfectionism, how perfectionism is mistaken for excellence, right? For me, this was a learning moment as well. She's like, perfectionism is mistaken for excellence or improving, but it's more about earning approval and acceptance from others. So half the time we think just because we want things to be perfect, we're being excellent or we're improving stuff, but often it's about us seeking approval from other people so that they can say, oh my God, that was perfect. Oh my God, she does ABCD so perfectly, right? And then she also tells us that perfectionism is non-existent. It's self-destructive. We are all doing the best we can, right? So often we think everybody has it figured out. We think everybody is happy, everyone's life is going well. But if we're being honest, yes, it's good, we look good, and everybody looks like they're doing great, but we're all just doing the best we can, and nobody has that perfect life. I think the only thing that was perfect was Jesus, but anything beyond that, no, we don't have perfectionism, right? And then she talks about how there's a crack in everything. That's how our light gets into it. We need to stop always trying to get things perfectly. Sometimes let things fall apart. Even as I'm doing this video, there's something that I want to hold on to, like I want to fix it and stuff. But just by reading this, I'm being reminded that sometimes let things fall apart, let things crack. And when those things crack or fall apart, that's where light comes into, eventually things work out as they should, right? And then she also talks about how spirituality is not a religion, it's deeper than that, right? It's deeper than that. And she says it is the belief that we're all connected by a power that is greater than all of us. So the highest power there's ever been. And then she also touches on hope, how hope is not a feeling. It's a combination of knowing what we want, believing that we're capable, and being with the possibility of disappointment and rerouting. So that is what hope does for you. You hope that something is going to happen, and it's not a feeling. It's just you believe that it's possible for it to happen, but also you're okay with it not happening, knowing that you can always reroute and take another route, right? And then she also talks about how it's important to play, how it's important to have fun, how it's important to enjoy our lives, right? And then she says it's fun and easy doesn't always mean great and hopeful. We need to get rid of this culture and do better. It's okay for things to be hard so that we learn and grow from them. So she also talks about how oftenly we think things are good if they are easy. So just because something is hard, we feel like, oh no, this is not fun and all of that. But we need to do hard things so that we can do better in our lives, right? Hard brings meaning and color to our lives, right? And then she talks about how also it's important to understand that we navigate through different things in life differently, and different processes are required of us in different seasons. So in one season, maybe you do things a certain way, but you need to be flexible enough to understand that maybe in the next season you need to do things differently, right? And then she also says it's important to find balance in between, although balance is non-existent, right? And she also talks about how it's important that we understand that we all have our different powers, right? So oftenly power is seen as having control over things, but that's not power. So she has this beautiful definition of power by Martin Luther King, right, Jr., who describes power as the ability to achieve our purpose and effect change. Power is not control, and the two should not be mixed together. So half the time we think we're powerful because we have control of certain things. Oh no, honey, that's not power. Power is knowing that you have the ability to effect change, and you have ability to operate from your highest purpose, basically, right? And then after that, she talks about how it's important to be critically aware of who you are, critically aware of your surroundings, critically aware of the things that trigger you, the things that make you feel a certain way. And once you are aware of those things, then you are able to navigate life better, right? And then also she talks about how many of us have a habit of doing certain things to numb certain pains or certain feelings in our lives, but it's important that we feel all of those feelings. And then I love how she uses pain and love. She says if you can't feel pain to the fullest, you are unable to love to the fullest or live fullest. So every emotion, feel it as it should. Don't glorify it, don't dwell on it, but feel that emotion, right? And then I love how she encourages rest and play. She says play is actually biologically proven and scientifically proven. Doctors do even recommend that we do play, and play is defined as doing something just because you like it. You're not expecting a certain result, you're not expecting, like, you're just doing it because you love it, right? And then I love how she also talks about how it's important to stop glorifying exhaustion. So we live, like I said, we're a generation that is we overworked, and we glorify overwork, we glorify long hours. But she says we need to get to a point where we stop glorifying exhaustion and labeling it as excellent, and labeling it as this is what shows that this person is good or great at something. We need to understand that does not qualify our worthiness. It's important that we stop overworking ourselves in the name of acceptance. We need to sit down and establish what works for us in different seasons, create different processes and systems for different seasons, right? And then she talks about how it's important to teach yourself how to live fully and live wholeheartedly. And so living wholeheartedly would mean living a joyful life. And joy is not because yesterday you didn't cry, yesterday you were not sad, yesterday no one did it, pissed you off. Living joyfully means you are able to do the things you love and enjoy life to the fullest, and feel every bit of life to the fullest and embrace it for what it is. So she talks about listing things that we love and doing more of those things, right? And then as I conclude, one of the things that I love that she mentioned, she said it's important to understand that meaningful work doesn't always mean you are leading the pack. It doesn't mean you're an exec. It doesn't mean you're a CEO. Meaningful work could just be you gardening, you taking a walk, you painting. It's different for each person. So we shouldn't label a meaningful life or meaningful work by what we see on social media. And it's important that we don't overconsume or overstimulate ourselves, so that we are able to independently think things throughout, right? And she talks about how it's important to utilize our gifts, how it's important to utilize the things that are shunned on, pain, shame, and feeling less than, to actually strive and do better and become more, right? And she encourages that we spend more time doing the things that we love, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be a job, it doesn't have to be something that you're paid for, it just has to be something that you love. And then she says it's important to laugh. In closing, I'm closing right now. It's important to laugh, enjoy life, laugh, and live to the fullest. So guys, without doing too much, saying too much, please get this book and understand that you're worthy every day. You're worthy now. It doesn't matter who said what happened yesterday, how you felt. You are worthy, and you will always be worthy. And again, I remind you, just because one area of your life is terrible, or you're experiencing something that you don't like, it doesn't mean your whole life is terrible or miserable. There is something good to look forward to. There is something to be thankful about. Use your imperfections to strive and be better. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share and comment. Don't forget to be loved and light. And remember to catch up on all Employment Wednesdays episodes that have been already uploaded. Love you all. See you next week.